During the series, Rigby always showed himself as someone irresponsible and untrustworthy. A lazy, immature person that nobody should trust. This image was built up from episode to episode until suddenly, when we realize there's nothing much to complain about Rigby anymore. He no longer disrupted Mordecai's life. So where did everything change? If you're asking yourself this, then you've clearly forgotten about the most important character in the Rigby story, someone who brought much controversy to the tale, someone who deserves an entire video dedicated to her. So today, in the story of couples, I bring you Eileen and Rigby. Enjoy. It all begins in the episode 18 of the second season called Do Me a Solid. In this episode, Mordecai and Rigby keep asking favors from each other in exchange for more favors. Without going into details, in this episode when they were having a snack at the coffee shop, Eileen invites Rigby to go out and says that Margaret will be there too. For some reason, Rigby felt very uncomfortable and somewhat irritated by Eileen's presence. He clearly didn't want to go, but Mordecai used one of his favors to force Rigby to go on this date, thus giving him a chance to impress Margaret. Rigby accepts in exchange for 10 favors from Mordecai. During the date, Eileen showed many signs of interest in Rigby, but for some reason this only irritated him more and more. He felt uncomfortable around her, and in a way, he had his reasons. I see things from Rigby's point of view, and these signs that Eileen gave somehow were suffocating him. He didn't understand why she liked him, and he didn't know or want to know her well enough to at least feel comfortable around her. Frustrated, Rigby does what he always does and decides to act like an idiot, ruining Mordecai's date with Margaret. He uses his favors to make Mordecai disrupt Margaret's shots, spit in her face, borrow money from her, moon her, and much more. When Mordecai realizes this, he asks why Rigby kept using his favors to sabotage his date with Margaret, and with the utmost hatred in his heart, he responds in a way that is somewhat disturbing.
Why'd you use your solid to ruin my life?
Ruin my life? It's okay that he didn't like Eileen, but saying that a date with her would ruin his life is at least insensitive and unexpected. It wouldn't be crazy to say that Rigby hated Eileen, which is something that catches us off guard, especially considering how their relationship developed. Rigby's final request was something very embarrassing, and Mordecai said that if he did that favor, Margaret would never respect him again. To convince him to do this, Margaret reveals that she was only there because of a favor she was doing for Eileen, who wanted to go out with Rigby so much that she brought her friend along to make sure he wouldn't flake out. Mordecai feels very bad about this, but now is not the time for him. After this very interesting event, our little couple meets again in the 27th episode of the second season called Skunked, where Mordecai and Rigby play bingo with dead animals, and despite being quite sickening, Rigby seems to be enjoying the work. They only needed a skunk to finish the job, and when they find one, it farts in Rigby's face, leaving him stinking and gradually transforming into a skunk of the same species as his. Along with this transformation came a short fuse accompanied by an increase in strength and aggressiveness on Rigby's part. He talks to Skips, who suggests taking a shower or using coffee before the transformation is 100% complete, because if it is, he won't want to return to normal.
I used the whole bottle! What, do you think I don't know how to wash my own hair?
When the shower doesn't work, he goes to Margaret and asks for coffee. Eileen offers him the drink, and since drinking it doesn't work, she suggests that he pour it on his body. Although clearly a joke, Rigby being desperate ends up doing it, and Eileen, having no idea on how serious the situation was, laughed at him because of such idiocy, triggering Rigby's aggressiveness again.
This is funny!
Well, I don't think it's funny. This is my life you're laughing at.
Rigby, stop!
Something interesting is that this was the first time that after an event like this, Rigby genuinely felt bad for what he did. Maybe because the victim was specifically Eileen, or because that was the fourth time he acted like that. But the important thing is that at that moment, it contributed a lot to Rigby gaining more empathy with her. In their next interactions, Rigby was more open-minded and much less of a jerk than before. But wait a minute, still in this episode, they finally managed to find a solution to this problem. It is revealed to us that the skunk at the beginning of the episode was actually a human who had also been cursed. But what I found weird was the reaction of the two friends after realizing that. Take a look and tell me if I'm exaggerating.
He still counts as a skunk, right?
Totally counts as a skunk.
Bingo!
Bingo!
Continuing, the reason I said that event influenced Rigby's apathy towards Eileen is that not many episodes later, in the 6th episode of the 3rd season called Camping Can Be Cool, it is noticeable the difference between this and the last time Rigby and Eileen were together on a date, in many quotes. Guess what the episode was about? You guessed it. The episode was about the day Obama killed a cave, and just kidding. The episode is about the time Rigby and Eileen, again with Mordecai and Margaret, went camping together, and although during the trip Rigby had a shitty attitude because of Eileen, when they arrived at the destination and she showed herself to be quite intelligent and interesting, Rigby finally starts to have normal and more pleasant interactions with her. They enjoy each other's company, doing very fun activities like swimming, climbing, and even playing video games together. This episode was what put an end to Rigby forcing himself to be with her, and he seemed to enjoy her presence. Therefore, that hatred he had for her finally seems to have disappeared. This episode allowed Rigby to see the best of Eileen, literally, since in the episode called Diary, the 33rd episode of the same season, Rigby needed to tell one of his biggest secrets. Well, I'll let him say it alone.
I think Eileen is hot without her glasses on!
If Eileen ever found out about it, we don't know. But what we do know is that after that their relationship only got better and better. Eileen gradually became Rigby's safe haven, and every time he felt he couldn't do something alone and needed advice or a guide, he always turned to Eileen. Eileen was someone who genuinely wanted the best for Rigby, helping him becoming a better person, seeking his best version, and not let him give up on his goals. She was the voice between pleasure and reason, the wise one in the relationship, and so it was in episodes like One Pull Up, where Rigby needed to do a lift to keep his job, she helped Rigby take the smarter path. She tried to turn him into his best version, motivating him and not letting him seek shortcuts. In the episode Lift With Your Back, which already has a video here on the channel, she didn't let Rigby give up on proving to everyone that he was useful. While everyone in the park, including Mordecai, didn't believe in him and even laughed at his face, Eileen was always by his side, and at that moment, she wasn't just a friend. She showed herself more and more worthy of being a beloved character by the community, which happened in the end of everything. In the episode Tense, she showed herself to be someone that not only Rigby but also Mordecai respected. When they screwed up, who was the first person they went to for help? Skips? Thomas? Death? None of them. You're terrible at this. The answer is
Eileen!
You realize that when Rigby needed help doing one pull-up, she helped and he succeeded. When he wanted to prove himself useful, she helped and he succeeded. When he needed to fix the problems he and Mordecai caused, she helped and he succeeded. And in the episode The Return of Mordecai and Rigby's, it was she who encouraged Rigby to keep the group together. And guess what? They didn't make it. But still, it's the intention that counts. But then the question arises, what about Rigby? Did he never help Eileen with anything? For that, my comrades, I take you to the 25th episode of the 5th season called Video 101. In this episode, Rigby, along with Mordecai and CJ, helped Eileen with the school project. She needed to make a video and asked for their help since she thought she was boring. Therefore, Mordecai and Rigby, being cool, were able to help. Although they did a lousy job, they at least tried, and this helped Eileen realize that her annoyance only existed in her head. Perhaps she wasn't as uninteresting as she thought. It's true that it wasn't as grand a gesture as Eileen's, but it's something, especially considering it's Rigby, the most selfish being in the history of regular show. In a blink of an eye, 2 episodes later to be more precise, they were already having dates alone. In the episode Play Date, the 27th of the same season, Mordecai asks Rigby for a favor. The favor of taking care of Thomas, who is the son of Death himself. Rigby says that he was busy at Eileen's house, and this became more and more recurring in their lives. In the episode Skips in the Saddle, the 36th still on the same season, he says he couldn't go to Skip's mini party because he had to go see Eileen's new stone polisher.
I got plans with Eileen. Friend plans. She wants to show me her new rock polisher.
Although it was a rather strange date idea, a stone polisher? What the hell is that? That already showed that their relationship had reached a level beyond friendship. So far, despite having had many dates, we still didn't know if they were officially dating or not. This only became even more confusing in the episode Real Date, the 40th of still the same season, they made fun of Mordecai and CJ for not having had any romantic dates yet being boyfriend and girlfriend. But apparently until that point Rigby and Eileen were in the same boat, but they spoke as if they knew what they were talking about. And still at the end of that same episode, this happens.
Is this waffles and a cake and chocolate?
Yeah,
I love it.
I thought that you would.
Now taking a big leap to the special Christmas episode, where Mordecai literally cheats on his girlfriend, finally being cemented as the worst character in the series. For the first time, we see Rigby showing affection for Eileen publicly, and although it's just a kiss on the cheek, we know it was much more than that. Now, remember when I said that the Christmas episode cemented Mordecai as a jerk? Well, I changed my mind. 18 episodes later, the 28th of the 6th season, the episode called Dumped at the Altar did that. In this one, we are confirmed that Eileen and Rigby were dating for a few months.
Eileen and I are dating! For like a couple of months now. We have matching bracelets!
Dude, that's crazy!
This wasn't so shocking for us as it was for Mordecai, because signs of that were abundant in our face, but Mordecai is disbelieving when he hears it, and still talking about him. I know the video is dedicated to Rigby and Eileen, but for the love of God, can someone explain to me what's wrong with this guy? Doing that with CJ at his friend's wedding on the altar, that's insane. And the consequences of these actions are seen in the episode Dumptown, USA. The first of the 7th season, where Mordecai is transported to a place where only men who have been dumped by their girlfriends go. Rigby, trying to help, asks Eileen to break up with him in a fake way, but the problem starts when in doing so, Rigby feels like Eileen was really sincere with him.
Well, I guess you are pretty immature.
Go on.
You don't floss or brush your teeth at all.
Keep going.
You're irresponsible, lazy. You never try anything new.
Now we're talking.
I've been wanting to try that new Ethiopian place for weeks now, and you won't?
Whoa, okay, I think that's good.
You know what? It's over. Get out. Consider yourself dumped, loser. Don't call me.
Did I just get dumped for reals?
He genuinely felt that it came straight from her heart, thus leaving him more confused about himself. Although it probably hurt, it didn't last long because 5 episodes later, in the episode Birthday Gift, where Rigby wanted to give Mordecai a decent birthday present, he goes to Eileen and ends up kind of falling into a scam that Eileen doubted anyone would fall for.
That video was uninformative and poorly produced. There's no way anyone would fall for that. Except my boyfriend.
So yes, my dear ones, they are still dating. In this episode, we get an idea of how stupid Rigby is, but at least he kept improving. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the next episode is one of the most important events of this story, the 16th of Season 7, Eileen Plan. In this episode, we see a list of plans she had and wanted to complete by her 25th birthday, and one of them would be to marry someone brilliant and very intelligent. In Rigby's presence, she says she doesn't even know someone like that, let alone marry them, and this clearly affects Rigby, who for the first time, being dumb really hurt inside him.
Hey, Mordecai.
What?
Do you think I'm dumb?
Yes.
He decides to go look for his diploma, which he had given up on, thus returning to university, and there he shows himself to be very dedicated, adding to the fact that he didn't want Eileen to know anything. He kept lying again and again. These lies made it so that he and Eileen couldn't enjoy their relationship and worried about everything that had happened to Rigby. Eileen goes looking for him, and after finding him, she has the impression that he just didn't want to be with her. Furious, she runs away and Rigby goes after her, but doing so would eliminate his chances of getting the diploma, but still.
Passing doesn't matter if I don't have Eileen!
They resolve the situation, and Eileen says that she doesn't really care about having a genius. Rigby was all she wanted. Rigby says that he would still get the diploma, but not just for her, but also for himself, and she says she respects that decision, leaving the cave in great style. The following episodes consist of Rigby trying to surprise his girlfriend. The episode Snow Tubing, where Rigby helps Eileen overcome her traumas with snow tubing. The episode Rigby Goes to Prom, the 27th of Season 7, where Rigby's father talks about how Rigby is a failure who ruins everybody's lives and he is about to do it again.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Seems like every day you find some new way to mess up our lives. And now you found someone new to mess up their life too! What?
In this case, talking about Eileen. She still wants to help Rigby, and so he manages to fix things with his father and save the day. Now, the 36th episode of the 7th season. The most important episode not for the relationship, but majorly for Rigby's character as a whole. The episode denominated as Rigby's graduation day. An episode that brings an end to Rigby's adventures at university, and finally, he could be the brilliant man that he resiliently worked for. And all that was missing was to close this beautiful arc with a speech at a similar level. All he needed was the help of his best friend, and if you still had a bit of hope for Mordecai, I'm sorry to inform you that it's hard to defend that guy. I'll let him say that alone.
I don't know, man. It's been a rough couple of days for me.
For you?
Yeah, look, I know how messed up this sounds, but it's hard to see you doing so great. I guess I always kind of liked that I was doing better than you before.
That does sound really messed up.
Remember that this is the most important day in his best friend's life. A friend who kept improving day after day and finally achieved something. A friend who always helped you in the worst moments, even if only in his own way. A friend who, despite everything, is your friend. But all that mattered to Mordecai was to be better than him. That feeling of superiority has always been there, ruining everything. But even so, Rigby managed to get his help and went there to make the biggest speech of his life. At the end of the episode, the park gang along with Eileen are sent to space, which in theory would open up more opportunities for their development. But in reality, there wasn't much of that. That's why we jump to the end, the grand finale, the end of everything. Now we go to the last episode of Regular Show. The episode where Pop sacrifices himself, and after 3 years on space, they finally return to Earth. And for the first time in the series, we see a kiss between our beloved couple, and alongside that, we have a 25-year time skip. This showed how our beloved Rigby's life ended. A beautiful wife along with 3 beautiful children, and ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the love story between Rigby Rickerson and Eileen Roberts. From hatred to love, from rags to riches, and from good to even better. Thank you very much for everything, and as always, my friends, it was a pleasure to be with you. And until we meet again.